Chapter 308 Afterward, Song Juanxiu walked away without looking back. The two disciples following beside Song Juanxiu saw this and murmured. Senior brother Song thought too highly of her already. It is simply a fool's talk for her to enter the inner sect. Song Juanxiu scoffed. If she can't enter the inner sect, well, treat it as that she has good luck. If she enters the inner sect, Song Juanxiu narrowed his eyes into slits, and a vicious look flashed across his eyes. The two disciples beside him made eye contact and understood what Song Juanxiu was thinking of. After chasing Song Juanxiu and the rest away, Yi Qingtang calmed her heart once again. The urge for the spirit root to break through, which stopped just now, continued to build up again, and the warm sensation surged into her abdomen rapidly. Spirit energy lingered around the spirit root and nourished it without a sound. Suddenly, Yi Qingtang felt an unusual burn at the area where her spirit root was, and subsequently, her body temperature rose up. A flow of hot air seemed to rush up from her abdomen to the top of her skull. Instinctively, Yi Qingtang used all her energy and suppressed that intense heat, not allowing it to spread to other areas. As the temperature rose bit by bit, her face turned from white to red. In the spirit consonance river, the faint red light at her abdomen area gradually turned orange. Orange spirit root. Yi Qingtang immediately held her breath. The transformation of the spirit root caused the heat around her body to vanish immediately, and she could clearly sense that the spirit root in her body was completely reborn. From red spirit root to orange spirit root, Yi Qingtang took a few months, and this breakthrough happened to resolve one of her biggest worries. Although it was still an orange spirit root now, as long as her spirit root could be upgraded. In the future, it would be possible to achieve a yellow spirit root, green spirit root, and even the blue spirit root that was stolen from her. Overwhelmed with joy, she took a deep breath to forcefully suppress her excitement. She always felt that there were traces of her spirit root making a breakthrough previously, but never managed to reach the last step. However, the rich spirit energy in the spirit consonance river gave her the finishing push. Yi Qingtang could feel that when her spirit root transformed, her abilities had also advanced to the peak of Khanate level 8 from the previous Khanate level 7. In just 2 hours, she actually advanced one entire level. This was simply not what ordinary people dared to think of. 15,000 shimming points could exchange for such a massive improvement. This was more than worth it to her. The last hint of heartache vanished into thin air at that moment. Yi Qingtang did not spend too much time on improving her spirit root. Chapter 310 Lu Yu continued talking. This was originally a great thing, but someone just had to overestimate her own abilities. She did not use those shimming points to cultivate honestly and insisted on exchanging for the qualifications to participate in the inner sect assessment. She even excitedly exchanged for the spirit consonance river's usage rights for a few hours. Lu Yu said, "Won't that someone just look at what spirit root she has?" While Lu Yu did not mention the name, all the disciples present knew who she was talking about. The news of Yi Qingtang exchanging for the inner sect assessment's participation qualification and the spirit consonance river's usage rights had already circulated in the outer sect over the past 2 days. All the outer sect disciples who heard of the news thought that Yi Qingtang was crazy. Otherwise, why would she do such a wild thing? Senior Sister Lu, don't talk about it anymore. Let's leave first. Su Wan mumbled as she tugged on Lu Yu's sleeves. Lu Yu frowned and said softly, "Are you really easy to be bullied? Are you still not clear what kind of person Yi Qingtang is? If not for her, why would senior brother Lu be flogged so many strokes? Senior brother Lu is still laying on bed to recuperate now." A bitter expression was seen on Su Wan's face, as though she suffered a huge wrong. Yuan Shu's face darkened immediately when they heard the cutting remarks. He instinctively wanted to walk up to them but was held back by Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang shook her head at Yuan Shu slightly with a seeming smile. "Senior brother Yuan, why bother arguing with the likes of them? Are you not angry?" Yuan Shu was surprised. Yi Qingtang chuckled. "If a dog bites me, should I bite it back?" It was not for them to comment on whether she had the ability. On the day of the assessment, everything would be apparent. Yuan Shu was a little shocked and could not help but laugh. "Forget it. It is good to ignore them as well. However, What you did this time was indeed rash. I know that your natural endowment is good, but recklessly participating in this year's intersect assessment. Yunshu spoke with a serious expression. Yi Qingting said, "Don't worry, senior brother Yun. Since I did it, I must have a certain level of confidence." Seeing her confidence, Yunshu did not say anything more. Perhaps even Yunshu himself did not notice that after the Shangyue fire tripod incident, he was no longer as gentle as before, and there was a fierce expression in his eyes. After sorting their thoughts, the two of them entered the martial arts hall to cultivate without wasting any more time. Su Wan watched Yunshu and Yi Qingtang leave and bit her fingers secretly. Chapter 313. I heard that the outer sect's Ji Xianyuan is skilled and is ranked first on the ranking chart. I wonder if anyone will challenge him today, the herbal faction elder said with a laugh. Then, he seemed to have recalled something and looked at Elder Lin. I heard that Lin Feng challenged the disciple who was ranked third on the outer sect's ranking chart last month and was victorious. He is already ranked third on the ranking chart now. Upon hearing the words Lin Feng, there was a slight change in Elder Lin's expression. Although Feng is young, he is diligent. I am not worried about him. That is a given. Lin Feng is your grandson, and his natural endowments have been good since young. Holding the same family values as you, it seems to me that he will be able to make it today. The herbal faction elder laughed. Whether he has the qualifications to enter the inner sect is still dependent on his performance today. This has nothing to do with whether he is my grandson or not, Elder Lin said. The herbal faction elder laughed and did not say anything further. The few intersect elders were all aware that the disciple placed third on the ranking charts was the grandchild of Elder Lin from the intersect sword faction. He was indeed above average, and if there were no accidents, he should be able to enter the inner sect this year. After taking a look at the outer sect disciples below, Elder Lin glimpsed at Elder Qin, whose expression was slightly ugly. Elder Qin, it's been a few days since I saw you. Why are you so unhappy? Could it be that you regret granting Yi Qingtang the qualification to take part in this year's assessment? Although there was no emotion in Elder Lin's tone, there was a hint of sarcasm in his words. Half a month ago, Yi Qingtang presented a mystic treasure of the Blood Moon sect to Elder Qin, and Elder Qin rewarded Yi Qingtang with a huge sum of shimming points. Yet, unexpectedly, these shimming points were actually used to exchange for the inner sect assessment participation qualification. A new disciple who just entered Xinling's sect for a few months actually had the nerve to take part in this assessment. If this was not seeking death, then what was this? Elder Qin was even more displeased after being mocked by Elder Lin. You're overthinking, Elder Lin. Since Yi Qingtang wants to do it, it is inconvenient for me to say anything. I am lost in thoughts only because I lost something. Thank you for worrying. Elder Qin was indeed in a foul mood at that point. That day when Yi Qingtang handed the revolving soul orb to him, he kept it carefully once he returned to the sect. But a few days ago, that revolving soul orb disappeared all of a sudden. He searched every corner in his room but could not find any trace of it and almost fainted in anger. Elder Qin was aware of how rare the revolving soul orb was. However, before the treasure that he just obtained was warm from his touch, it was already gone. He was really infuriated. Elder Lin looked at Elder Qin's frustrated behavior, and a pleased expression emerged in his eyes. Then, he turned away and replied, "Since you lost something, you should search carefully. All right. It is about time. The competition is going to start soon. Let's just watch first," said the Fist faction's elder. The square was extremely boisterous. Disciples surrounded the ring, and some were burning with eagerness to try it out while some were waiting to watch the show. At the other end of the ring, 10 elegant and talented young disciples stood there in an imposing manner. Those were the disciples ranked top 10 on the ranking charts. Although Dai Changming was in 10th place, his demeanor was also different from other disciples. The appearance of these 10 people attracted much attention. Envious and fearful eyes were cast towards them. And just as everyone's attention was focused on those 10 people, Yi Qingtang and the Blood Moon sect elder entered the square without a sound. Chapter 314. These 10 people's demeanors are indeed different from everyone else's. They're definitely top-notch elites. The Blood Moon sect elder narrowed his eyes while looking at the 10 people on the ranking chart. Just standing in the square, he could already feel the rich air around them, which made his blood boil with temptation. Girl, are you competing with a few of them today? The Blood Moon sect elder took a look at the 10 people standing on stage and then looked at Yiqingtang. Yiqingtang made huge improvements over the past few days, and this caused him to be even gloomier. If Yiqingtang did not gift the revolving soul orb, it would have exploded in these few days. Unfortunately, man proposes, God disposes. Yiqingtang shook her head. There were countless rounds of competition in the inner sect assessment where outer sect disciples were individually selected. The ring today is to contend for the top 100 in the outer sect. I am not participating in it, Yiqingtang said coldly. The 100 people who won today still needed to continue sparring to select the top 50. This continued, and ultimately, the top 10 people on the ranking chart would be born. Until a new batch of top 10 disciples remained, Yiqingtang would not take part in it. She had the participation qualification where she could compete on the last day and did not need to go through back-to-back sparring. It was considered as one of the benefits of the 30,000 Xinming points spent. Not participating? Then what are you here for? The Blood Moon sect elder had a bewildered look. Yiqingtang glimpsed at him. Have you heard the saying to know one's own strength and the enemy's is the sure way to victory? Everyone who met the requirements in the outer sect could take part in the first day of the inner sect assessment. The wide square was boisterous, and disciples clenched their fists in preparation of a good fight. Yiqingtang and the Blood Moon sect elder found a corner to observe the match where disciples full of vigor and vitality gave their all. After rounds of sparring, Yiqingtang gradually had an insight into the disciples' skills. Of course, the top 10 people on the ranking charts were skillful. However, Yuan Wei, whom Elder Huang recommended, displayed extraordinary skills on the first day of the competition. In the successive sparring, he never lost once and very quickly became a dark horse in this year's assessment with his brilliant results. From dawn to dusk, the competition for the first day lasted for an entire day, and the 100 people who ultimately succeeded were to take part in the competition on the second day. Seeing that the competition for the day was over, Yiqingtang dragged the Blood Moon sect elder and left. The next morning, the assessment continued. Compared to the previous day, although the number of assessment takers reduced by half, the battles were increasingly intense. 50 people were eventually selected after half a day of battle, and the third day, with 10 people being able to make it out of the 50, the fights were even fiercer. In this period of time, Yiqingtang went to observe the matches every day, until the assessment on the third day was over and only 10 outer sect elites remained ultimately. And among these 10 people, there was Yuan Wei, whom Elder Huang recommended. On the fourth morning, which was also the final battle for the inner sect assessment, the new batch of top 10 disciples on the ranking chart was already standing beside the ring. Today, the 10 of them will contend for the top 3 positions which would allow them to enter the inner sect. Elder Huang was jovial these few days. Yesterday, Yuan Wei was extraordinary in the competition. Not only did he enter the top 10, he even placed fourth on the ranking chart, and this really inflated his self-esteem. When he saw Elder Lin from the inner sect yesterday, Elder Lin even offered rare praises. The warden in charge of the competition stood in the center of the ring to declare the start of the competition. Many outer sect disciples were gathered in the square to watch the blood-filled battles amongst the top disciples. Yuan Wei stood below the ring and glanced across the sight before him. Suddenly, Yuan Wei took a step into the arena. His appearance resulted in a flurry of gasps. It should be known that Yuan Wei was currently placed fourth in the ranking chart. Now that he entered the ring once again, there was only one possibility. He wanted to challenge the holder of the top 3 positions. Disciple, Yuan Wei, wishes to challenge the third place, senior brother Lin Feng. Yuan Wei's face had an arrogance of the youth. Loud cheers erupted immediately. Standing below the ring, Lin Feng's lips curled into a smile, which added a tinge of haughtiness on his originally good-looking face. Chapter 316. Junior Brother Yun. Since that is what you want, I can only play the game with you till the end. Lin Feng smiled, and with the point of his toes, he leaped into the arena. There were cheers below the ring. Yuan Wei was the biggest dark horse this year and was victorious in all his matches over the past 3 days. Now that he was challenging Lin Feng today, many were boiling with excitement. Do you think that Yuan Wei's chance of winning is bigger or senior brother Lin's chance of winning is bigger? The onlooking disciples discussed fervently. Yuan Wei's skills is indeed powerful, but senior brother Lin is the elite of the elite in our outer sect. Furthermore, his improvement this year is extremely huge. I think that Yuan Wei may not be able to win. Yuan Wei has not lost any round until now, and his moves are quick and fierce. It is still not certain who will win and who will lose in this battle. As everyone was caught up in their discussion, on the ring, Yuan Wei had already attacked. His figure turned into a shadow and the sword into a cold light which flashed across the ring and charged towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng stood rooted to the ground without moving. His narrowed eyes reflected Yuan Wei's shadow, and he smiled briefly. This little junior brother was really so arrogant. Just as Yuan Wei was about to attack Lin Feng suddenly vanished. Losing his target, Yuan Wei was instinctively stunned for a second, but before he could return to his senses, Lin Feng already appeared behind him, and his sword directly stabbed towards Yuan Wei's shoulder. In almost an instant, Yuan Wei turned around and did a backflip, avoiding this fatal blow with only one hand on the ground to support his body. But before Yuan Wei adjusted his posture, Lin Feng already chased after him swiftly with fancy swordplay. The countless glistenings of the sword entered Yuan Wei's eyes. Alarmed, he only managed to raise a sword to counter Lin Feng's attack. The two swords clashed, and a loud clank rang. Yuan Wei used the force to pull some distance between Lin Feng, wanting to change from being on the offense to defense. However, when he did a flip and struck his sword towards Lin Feng was already prepared. He immediately lifted his sword and hurled Yuan Wei's sword away while, at the same time, landing a fierce kick on Yuan Wei's abdomen. In just a moment, Yuan Wei was kicked out of the ring by Lin Feng. Yuan Wei, who fell off the ring, appeared in a rather bad state as he looked in astonishment at Lin Feng, who was looking down at him from a height. That was a good fight, junior brother Yuan Wei. Lin Feng nodded at Yuan Wei with a seeming smile. Although his words were humble, there was arrogance in his voice. Yuan Wei frowned, and Elder Huang came forward to help him up. Chapter 318. Ranking Chart 3. The number 2 on the Excellence roll initially had the thought of challenging Ji Xianyuan, but after witnessing the sight, he completely waved the white flag and dropped the idea of snatching the number 1 position. Only God knows that Ji Xianyuan was this powerful. In the observation tower, Elder Lin saw Lin Feng's defeat, but there was not much expression on his face. As the elders saw that there was no one else who went up to the ring, they knew that the inner sect assessment for this year would conclude soon. The top 3 on the Excellence roll is already finalized. We should give them the qualifications to enter the inner sect. Elder Lin stood up slowly and was about to grant the top 3 the inner sect entrance qualification with the other 3 elders. The disciples in the square thought about how exciting the matches were today and wished they had such powerful skills as well. Elder Huang, who was beside the ring, heaved a sigh of relief secretly. When he saw that the few elders walking out from the observation tower, Elder Huang immediately welcomed them with other outer sect elders. "Greetings, elders," Elder Huang said. "Elder Huang, Yuan Wei did pretty well this year. The person you selected is amazing," Elder Lin praised. Elder Huang was delighted and felt that his face was glowing. Since the assessment this year has ended, the top 3 can be granted admission into the inner sect already, Elder Lin said. Noted. Elder Huang nodded and immediately turned to walk up the ring. Under everyone's gaze, he announced, "The inner sect assessment today is already over." Before Elder Huang finished his sentence, a clear female voice suddenly sounded from the crowd. "Elder Huang, I have not taken my assessment." With that, Elder Huang felt a tug on his heart, and everyone looked in the direction of the voice. What appeared before their eyes was the small-framed Enchanting was walking towards the ring. This sight caused Elder Huang's heart to rise up his throat. Discussions exploded in the square. Yi Qingtang? She really dared to come? It can't be. I didn't see her entering the ring these few days. I still thought those rumors were false. Don't joke anymore. With just that level of skills, she may just be beaten into a pulp by all these senior brothers. Don't be blinded by her face. There was a flurry of discussions in the square. Everyone felt that Yi Qingtang must be crazy. Otherwise, why would she still dare to seek death after witnessing so many rounds of the competition? As they were discussing, Yi Qingtang had already walked up to the ring and handed the assessment qualification waste tablet that she exchanged from Elder Qin into Elder Huang's hands. Elder Huang frowned in exasperation that his words fell on deaf ears and wished he could just pull Yi Qingtang down from the stage. Why is this girl so stubborn? Does she know how dangerous this ring is? This is my assessment qualification. Please verify it, Elder Huang. Elder Huang's lips twitched as he looked at the waste tablet in his hands and tried to maintain his composure. This is the waste tablet for the intersect assessment. Are you aware that if you use this qualification, you'll have to directly challenge the top 3 people on the excellence roll? Elder Huang hinted at Yi Qingtang for the last time. Her waste tablet could allow her to skip the competitions in the previous day, but also restricted the opponents that she had to challenge to the disciples who were placed in the top 3 positions. I am aware. Yi Qingtang nodded. Elder Huang was really mad that he did not know what to do. Yi Qingtang, since that is what you want, I will permit you to start your assessment. However, remember not to force yourself. In the end, Elder Huang still could not help but advise her again. An astonished expression flashed across his eyes. He obviously did not expect Yi Qingtang's appetite to be this huge. She actually initiated a challenge to Ji Xianyuan directly. Lin Feng narrowed his eyes, and his lips curled into a sarcastic smile. With a casual shrug, he turned to look at Ji Xianyuan. Senior brother Ji, junior sister Yi wishes to spar with you. I guess you can only help to fulfill her wish. Then, Lin Feng jumped down from the ring. There was no expression on Ji Xianyuan's face as he walked up to the ring after casting a look at Yi Qingtang. According to the intersect assessment qualification that Yi Qingtang obtained, she could challenge any one of the top 3 disciples on the excellence roll. However, the act of directly challenging the number 1 was unbelievably insane. Chapter 320. The Top of the Outer Sect, 1. Senior brother Ji, I'm honored to learn from you. Yi Qingtang finally smiled as she saw Ji Xianyuan walking onto the arena. Ji Xianyuan just nodded slightly. His face was expressionless. After Lin Feng challenged the top position of Ji Xianyuan, all disciples knew the true ability of Ji Xianyuan. His ability was comparable with inner sect disciples. Who else in the outer sect dared to challenge him? Yet, unexpectedly, Yi Qingtang was so bold. Elder Qin, who was standing at the side of the arena, frowned upon hearing Yi Qingtang's choice. Elder Lin's showed a peculiar sight as he witnessed the concern Elder Qin showed. The warden who was in charge of the arena announced the beginning of the competition after confirming with Yi Qingtang. This competition was different from the rest today. The whole square was silent after the announcement was made. This was completely a one-sided challenge. No one even had any expectations for Yi Qingtang. When everyone was out of interest, Yi Qingtang squinted her eyes. However, she did not begin her attack. Instead, she was staring at Ji Xianyuan cautiously. Ji Xianyuan took a quick glance at Yi Qingtang and attacked instantly. His body appeared like a streak of light on the arena. He did not even pull out his sword as he dashed towards Yi Qingtang like the wind. His fist smashed towards Yi Qingtang's temple as he landed on the ground. However, the instant when Ji Xianyuan raised his fist, Yi Qingtang's heel turned, and her tiny body moved sideways. The sharp wind created by the fist flew through her hair on the temple. Boom! The wind created by the fist smashed the stone pillar behind Yi Qingtang. The crushed stones flew away and dropped to the ground. As the dust spread, all disciples who were not interested previously were stunned. How is Yi Qingtang so lucky? One disciple stared at the crushed stone pillar and was shocked when he noticed Yi Qingtang was not hurt at all. If the fist landed on the human body, even if this person did not die instantly, they would be disabled. No one expected Yi Qingtang to be able to dodge the first attack away by luck. Did senior brother Ji not use his full strength? Lin Feng raised his brows. He did not believe that Ji Xianyuan's attack would be dodged away by a new disciple. Ji Xianyuan frowned as his first attack missed. He stared at Yi Qingtang, whose face still remained calm. His eyes sparkled. At the next second, Ji Xianyuan stepped on the ground and opened his fist. Strong air currents were concentrated in his palm. The Gale Palm, Elder Huang, who was at the side of the arena, was stunned when he saw Ji Xianyuan's palm. The Gale Palm was the most powerful palm skill in the outer sect. Its power was unimaginable, and even the wind created was extremely sharp. Within a second, Ji Xianyuan smashed his palm towards Yi Qingtang's head. Yi Qingtang squinted her eyes as the strong wind blew her hair up. Suddenly, a trace of cold light appeared in her eyes. The moment Ji Xianyuan smashed down his palm, her body leaned backward, and she raised her left arm. The white hand swiped across Ji Xianyuan's palm, but she did not manage to hold the palm. However, Yi Qingtang's hand suddenly turned and grabbed Ji Xianyuan's wrist. Her feet pushed off the ground and jumped backward. She pushed down Ji Xianyuan's wrist and smashed towards the 8 trigram stage using the downward force. It was another round of dead silence at the square. Everyone's faces were full of surprise. Junior Sister Yes' ability is really beyond my imagination. I didn't know that there was a disciple like you in the outer sect, Ji Xianyuan said. Everyone was taken aback as they heard Ji Xianyuan's words. Ji Xianyuan just approved Yi Qingtang's ability? How could this be? Senior brother Ji is as strong as the rumors say. Yi Qingtang was not trying to be polite. Ji Xianyuan's ability deserved the top position in the outer sect. Chapter 322, The Top of the Outer Sect, 3. Everyone at the square looked at Yi Qingtang in a complex way. No one could imagine that such an insignificant disciple would make the top on the honor roll list. Ji Xianyuan, get so serious. Elder Huang's concern had become a strange feeling. He could not describe how he felt now as he stared at Yi Qingtang. He even had some expectations now. Other disciples might not notice during the fight, but Elder Huang had seen everything clearly. Ji Xianyuan did not hold back at all. Every single move was ferocious. However, Yi Qingtang could fend off all of them and even took the chance to attack. It was hard to tell who was stronger now. No one expected that she could fight with the top disciple of the outer sect until now. Only until now did Elder Huang then understand why Yi Qingtang had the courage to challenge Ji Xianyuan. I was wrong this time, Elder Huang sighed. Based on Yi Qingtang's moves just now, he was astonished by her ability. Even if she lost in the end, it would still be an honor. She would be another strong candidate in the inner sect assessment this year. Ji Xianyuan took a light breath and stared at Yi Qingtang. It's an honor to have a battle with you, Junior Sister Yi. The moment when he finished his sentence, he pulled out his sword. A streak of cold light appeared beside him as he dashed forward. Yi Qingtang smiled. She did not back off, and instead, she raised her sword and was ready to fight. The light of the sword sparkled on the arena instantly. Only 2 shadows could be seen. They moved so fast that many disciples were dazzled. Everyone's sight was captured by the 2 people on the arena. Yi Qingtang is insane to be able to fight against the top person of the outer sect. She is a monster. How long has she entered the sect for? Ji Xianyuan is at the peak of Khanate level 9. Ji Xianyuan's state was entirely different from before. His sight was very sharp. As he split his sword down, the sword breath filled the whole arena. It seemed to create a violent gust of wind. Yi Qingtang's body changed into a virtual and blurry figure. She took a lap, and her hair was flying under the wind. Her sword was dyed gold by the sunlight, and she pierced the sword directly at Ji Xianyuan. The sound of the swords colliding, and the shadows of the swords sparkling were everywhere in the arena. Lin Feng stared at this intense battle unbelievably. His eyes were full of surprise. He clearly knew how strong was Ji Xianyuan after experiencing a battle with him. That was the reason why Lin Feng could not believe that there was anyone in the outer sect that was able to fight against Lin Feng. Yi Qingtang. What was her background? Lin Feng did not even hear of this name before the inner sect assessment. Chapter 323. The Top of the Outer Sect. 4. Yi Qingtang and Ji Xianyuan had more than 100 attacks on the arena. Every attack was intense and fatal. The arena that was cracked was about to collapse under the constant force. Under the intersections of the sword light, Yi Qingtang pulled herself away from Ji Xianyuan as she jumped to the corner of the arena. The delicate face was full of sweat now. No one could even imagine being able to break through Khanate level 9 in such a short period of time. Yi Qingtang put in all her effort to reach today's level and had the ability to fight against Ji Xianyuan. However, she could not drag this on anymore. Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes. She had just entered the peak of Khanate level 9, so her spirit energy was not as strong as Ji Xianyuan's. She mainly relied on her fighting experiences from her previous life to be able to fight against Ji Xianyuan up to now. If she dragged on further, her spirit energy might not be able to hold on anymore. Yi Qingtang immediately made a decision in her heart. Ji Xianyuan's breath was not as stable as before as well. He was surprised by Yi Qingtang's abilities. If he did not experience the fight against Yi Qingtang, he could not believe the 15-year-old young lady had entered the state of Khanate level 9. However, when Ji Xianyuan was about to attack, Yi Qingtang moved first. Yi Qingtang lowered her body as she dashed over. It was surprising that she kept her sword back. Her right hand was placed on the handle of the sword, but it seemed that she did not intend to pull out her sword. Ji Xianyuan felt something was peculiar, but Yi Qingtang was dashing towards him. He shouted and focused all his spirit energy on his sword. The moment he raised his sword, countless gales were concentrated on the edge of his sword. Ji Xianyuan split his sword down immediately. The strong sword breath crushed everything around him. As Yi Qingtang approached him, her figure suddenly sparkled across his eyes. The tiny figure suddenly split into two, and he could not tell which one was the real one. Ji Xianyuan was stunned. Before he could differentiate which one was the real one, Yi Qingtang pulled her sword and pierced forward with her fastest speed as he was distracted. Ji Xianyuan only saw a streak of cold light flying out of Yi Qingtang's waist. As he withdrew his sword to defend himself, he then realized. His sword dropped onto the messy arena without him realizing that. A deep wound appeared on the hand that was holding the sword, and the wound spread across his entire hand. Blood was flowing out of his wound and dripping onto the ground. A sudden pain spread out from his chest. Ji Xianyuan lowered his head instinctively. His chest was cut by the sword. Yi Qingtang raised her sword up under the sight. The sword was covered with blood. Chapter 324. Victory 1. I lost. Ji Xianyuan took a breath and announced his defeat. He picked up his sword and signaled to Yi Qingtang before walking off the arena. Yi Qingtang was the only one on the arena now. Yi Qingtang won. She really won against Ji Xianyuan. Everyone who watched the whole battle felt that it was so hard to believe. Was that real? Did senior brother Ji lose? The outer sect disciples would never believe what they just saw if they had not witnessed that with their own eyes. Ji Xianyuan lost to a new disciple who just entered the sect for a few months. Furthermore, Yi Qingtang only possessed a red spirit root. Everyone felt it was insane as it was too hard for them to believe. Elder Huang's face was full of astonishment. He only realized what had just happened when he heard the discussions around. He raised his head to look at Yi Qingtang. It seemed to be a dream to him. Yi Qingtang really defeated the top of the outer sect? Was it a joke? Elder Huang was in a complex mood. The feeling of joy slowly spread out in his heart. Previously, he did not agree with Yi Qingtang's crazy decision, but now, he felt glad that Yi Qingtang insisted. Who knew that this girl really would win? Furthermore, she defeated Ji Xianyuan. Elder Huang was delighted now. Yi Qingtang did not lose on the arena, and instead, she earned the reputation for him. Such a miracle. No one expected that there would be such a reversion to the inner sect assessment. Ji Xianyuan, who always remained as the top, was defeated by Yi Qingtang. The new disciple, whose name was unknown previously, suddenly became the top on the honor roll list. Everyone was having a heavy heart at the moment. Yi Qingtang was the top on the honor roll list now. The others on the list all moved back by one position. Ji Xianyuan became the second, and Lin Feng was kicked out of the top 3. Anyone still want a battle? The warden went up to the arena. He glanced around and asked. Everyone on the honor roll list remained silent. No one dared to challenge Ji Xianyuan or Yi Qingtang, who just defeated Ji Xianyuan. No one went up to the arena after a while, and the inner sect assessment came to an end. Elder Qin stared at Yi Qingtang in a satisfied way. He agreed to give the permission of attending the inner sect assessment to Yi Qingtang, all because of her stubbornness. He did not expect that she would bring such a surprise. Her 30,000 shimming points were really worth it now. Yi Qingtang is not bad, I feel. She brings a little surprise to the inner sect assessment. The fist section elder commended after watching the entire battle. Not bad indeed, Elder Lin said coldly, but his sight landed on his grandson Lin Feng, who was kicked out of the top 3 on the honor roll list. Lin Feng had great improvements this year. To the outer sect, 50,000 shimming points was simply an unimaginable number. Many people might not be able to earn so many shimming points in their entire lifetime, and it was even more impossible to touch those precious treasures. Everyone could not do anything other than feeling envious of her. Yi Qingtang's skills were displayed before their eyes, and even if they were envious, they could only watch on. After all, Yi Qingtang entered the inner sect as the number 1 on the excellence roll. With their little skills, there was no way they could be regarded in the same category. Seeing that everything was settled, Elder Qin decided to return to the inner sect first. However, at that instant, an extremely swift figure flew past at a speed where no one could see it clearly. Chapter 326. Victory 3. The disciples in the square felt an overpowering force shrouding them from above, and they looked at the sky immediately. Elder Qin looked up, and his lips curled into a smile when he saw the figure that resembled a shooting star. Elder Immerse. When Elder Qin finished his sentence, the figure suddenly landed from the sky, and a tall figure appeared on the ring. In just a moment, a strong, overbearing force spread throughout the square when that person landed, even causing some disciples to have some difficulty breathing. Elder Qin. The person who landed on the ring had a detached disposition. He looked 60 years old, but his straight back and deep set of eyes did not have any trace of his aging. Are you just returning to the sect, Elder Immerse? What a coincidence. The inner sect assessment just ended, and we are about to return to the inner sect. Elder Qin spoke to Elder Immerse with a smile. Elder Immerse looked at the 4 people on the ring without any emotions on his face. It ended already? Yes, Elder Qin said. The disciples in the square looked at Elder Immerse, whom Elder Qin was talking to on the ring, and were a little out of breath from the overwhelming air around him. Who is this Elder Immerse? How could he have such an overbearing force? A disciple took a deep breath quietly. They knew how powerful the inner sect elders were, and although Elder Immerse controlled the movement of the air around him, the slight, overbearing force he let out by accident was enough to cause them discomfort. Elder Immerse is the inner sect's internal affairs elder. There is a total of 10 elders in the inner sect. Elder Qin, Elder Lin, and the 2 other elders we saw previously are the administrative elders of the inner sect, who not only manage the inner sect disciples, but also handle some important affairs in the outer sect. On the other hand, the internal affairs elder is only responsible for inner sect matters and is not bothered about any outer sect matters at all. I heard that the internal affairs elder's abilities are just right below the sect master's. It is our honor to be able to meet Elder Immerse, the internal affairs elder. If not for this coincidence, outer sect disciples like us would never get to see him unless we enter the inner sect. As the disciples lamented in their hearts, Elder Immerse had already exchanged a few words with the other elders, and they returned to the inner sect together. After the inner sect elders left, The disciples surrounded in the square finally dispersed gradually. Yi Qingtang and Ji Xianyuan made eye contact, nodded slightly, and walked down the ring the moment she just stepped down from the ring. Elder Huang, who was in all smiles, walked up. Yi Qingtang, you performed well today. Elder Huang's smile at that instant was exceptionally bright. Chapter 327, Treasure Collection 1. Yi Qingtang wanted to return to her room and get a change of clothes, but ended up being dragged away by Qin Huan and the rest. Congratulations for today, junior sister Yi. They'll play the host tonight and treat you to a good meal. Qin Huan hit his chest generously. Senior brother Qin, this is not a place to treat one to a meal. Yi Qingtang looked at the shimming pavilion before her and cast Qin Huan a speechless look. Treat. I will definitely treat you. However, you obtained the number 1 position in the intersect assessment this year. According to the rules, you can exchange for a treasure below 50,000 shimming points in the shimming pavilion. Qin Huan grinned and said, Junior sister Yi, I usually spend all my shimming points on elixirs and have never really seen the treasures in shimming pavilion. So, let me share some of your spotlight and accompany you to select an item. How about that? The corners of Yi Qingtang's lips twitched slightly. She was wondering when Qin Huan had been so kind to be this anxious to give a treat, but it turned out that this was waiting for her. Gu Yanxiu from aside could not help but let out a laugh. He was aware of Qin Huan's plan, but he wanted to congratulate Yi Qingtang as well, so he came along. Yi Qingtang was a little helpless. However, her reward would have to be claimed sooner or later. Since Qin Huan and the rest wanted to take a look, so shall it be. Immediately, Yi Qingtang entered the shimming pavilion ahead of everyone. There were many disciples selecting items to exchange for in the shimming pavilion. Isn't that Yi Qingtang? A disciple suddenly saw Yi Qingtang, who walked into the shimming pavilion, and his eyes popped. Yi Qingtang? Which Yi Qingtang are you talking about? Who else can it be? It is really your loss to not watch the intersect assessment today. You don't know that this Yi Qingtang won the number 1 position on the excellence roll just a while ago. Is that real? But didn't I hear that Yi Qingtang is a red spirit root previously? Didn't she just enter the outer sect this year? She is indeed a red spirit root, but so what? You didn't see her skills when she was sparring with senior brother Ji on the ring today. It was simply amazing. I heard that she could participate in the assessment this time because she spent 30,000 shimming points to exchange for the qualification. Since she is the first, won't she be able to choose any treasure within the price range in shimming pavilion now? The attention of all the disciples was attracted by Yi Qingtang's news, and everyone's eyes fell on her uniformly. Looking at the back view of that thin frame, it was difficult for them to connect her with the number 1 on the excellence roll. What kind of reward do you think Yi Qingtang will choose? This is not easy to say. There are so many treasures in shimming pavilion, and it's a difficult problem for anyone. What's so hard about it? Give me a random item, and he'll still want it. Dream on. Do you think you are Yi Qingtang? As the people discussed, Yi Qingtang and the rest had already arrived at the counter to exchange weapons. The warden behind the counter was the same person who showed Yi Qingtang all types of weapons the other day. He found it strange after Yi Qingtang left without choosing anything that day and only realized afterward that Yi Qingtang's shimming points had already been used to exchange for the intersect assessment qualification. Now that he saw Yi Qingtang in the shimming pavilion again, that warden was no longer as excited as before. After all, the huge sum of shimming points in Yi Qingtang's hands were already all spent, and there was nothing he could squeeze from her. Chapter 328, Treasure Collection 2. Yi Qingtang faced the warden and said, Can I trouble you to let me take a look at the demonic blood sword? Demonic blood sword? Qin Huan had a face of shock. He had heard of its name before, and did not expect that this sword was actually in their sect. Looking at Yi Qingtang's stance, it was clear that she wanted it since a long time ago. At that thought, Qin Huan felt a chill down his spine. Strangely, he always felt that apart from the aim of entering the intersect, Yi Qingtang directly challenged Ji Xianyuan in the intersect assessment was most likely. because she had her eyes on the reward for the first place in the assessment. The more Qin Huan guessed, the more he felt that Yi Qingtang's thoughts were unfathomable. When exactly did she make this decision? Upon hearing Yi Qingtang's words, the warden did not have any emotions on his face and said coldly, "It is difficult to show a treasure priced at tens of thousands shimming points to people who are not exchanging for it. Do you have 40 shimming points?" The warden's attitude was neither cold nor warm, and his words were indeed by the rules.
No.
Yi Qingtang replied honestly. The warden's expression turned even more indifferent. He showed those swords to Yi Qingtang previously because he thought that Yi Qingtang had enough shimming points in her hands and made an exception. However, now, Yi Qingtang had spent her shimming points away a long time ago. How was she able to fork out 40 shimming points? Although the warden heard the news of Yi Qingtang participating in the intersect assessment, being stationed at the shimming pavilion, he never paid much attention to the events in the intersect assessment. Yet, honestly speaking, he did not believe that a new disciple who just entered the sect was able to top the excellence roll. Now that Yi Qingtang did not have any shimming points and was unable to achieve the number 1 position, she obviously did not have the qualifications to look at the demonic blood sword, which costs tens of thousands shimming points. Since you don't have enough shimming points, I cannot show you the demonic blood sword according to the rules. If you want to get a weapon you like, according to the amount of shimming points you have, you can choose from here. The warden pointed at the weapons displayed in the open that were priced at the thousands, clearly not paying her too much attention. However, there were weird expressions on the surrounding disciples' faces at the sight, and they reckoned that the warden probably had not heard of the results of the intersect assessment. Qin Huan was a little dissatisfied to see the warden's attitude, yet since he was after all a warden, Qin Huan was in no place to speak. Yi Qingtang had an indifferent expression on her face though. She looked at the warden who was already beginning to be impatient and said slowly, "I do not have 40,000 shimming points, but it should be fine if I use this, right?" Then, Yi Qingtang took out the scroll that Elder Qin gave her and placed it on the counter. The warden who was initially still idle looked at the golden scroll on the table. The casual expression on his face instantly froze and broke apart. He suddenly straightened himself and stared at the scroll in surprise. "Is it fine?" Yi Qingtang asked. The warden did not reply to Yi Qingtang immediately and carefully read the scroll. First in the intersect entrance assessment. Eligible to exchange any treasure below 50,000 shimming points in the shimming pavilion. And the words, Yi Qingtang, were glaringly written on the blank for the name of the number 1 position. The warden's eyes almost popped out, and he was only this close to burning a hole in that scroll. Chapter 329, Treasure Collection 3. The warden looked at Yi Qingtang in astonishment. There was nothing abnormal with the scroll, and it was definitely impossible to be a false imitation. "You're the first on the excellence roll this year?"
Yes.
Yi Qingtang nodded in reply. The warden had a complicated expression at that instant. Never did he expect that the first in the intersect assessment this year would actually be Yi Qingtang. After falling into a trance for some time, the warden finally returned to his senses and turned around to retrieve the box containing the demonic blood sword. "This is the demonic blood sword that you asked for." When the warden placed the box in front of Yi Qingtang, he still could not help but eye her up and down. It was not that he was snobby, but it was really the sect's rule. However, Yi Qingtang winning first place was indeed unexpected. What exactly was this girl's background? He heard that Ji Xianyuan, the number 1 on the excellence roll, was in an insanely good condition. Unexpectedly, he was actually defeated by Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang was not too bothered with the warden's gaze as all her attention was focused on the sword box. At that sight, other disciples in the shimming pavilion could not help but gather around as they stretched their necks, wanting to see what kind of treasure Yi Qingtang exchanged for as a reward for topping the excellence roll. "Junior sister Yi, is the demonic blood sword inside?" Qin Huan's eyes twinkled. Yi Qingtang nodded. The demonic blood sword is the weapon of Qi Shui, the invincible slayer who was addicted to killing. Tens of thousands of lives were lost under this demonic blood sword. I heard from a long time ago that Qi Shui, the invincible slayer, ultimately became mad, and his mind was counterattacked by the demonic blood sword as he massacred too many people. Gu Yanxiu uttered, clearly having heard many rumors about the demonic blood sword. Although this sword was renowned, it was extremely dangerous as well. Counterattacked by the demonic blood sword? There's such a thing? Qin Huan was shocked. Gu Yanxiu said, "This demonic blood sword is no ordinary weapon. It was made by Qi Shui, the invincible slayer, himself. He held a blood sacrifice of 10 people and used their blood to make a sword. This demonic blood sword contains an extremely strong evil aura." A chill ran down Qin Huan's spine, and he silently withdrew the hand that was about to touch the sword box. And just as Gu Yanxiu and Qin Huan were talking, Yiqingtang opened the box immediately. The moment it was opened, a cold mist was released. The simple-looking demonic blood sword was laying in the box quietly. Yiqingtang immediately held the sword and drew it out of its scabbard. In just a moment, the surrounding temperature seemed to fall along with Yiqingtang's action. Chapter 333. Sword Boy and Attendant Girl, 2. If the flair of the Sword Boy and Attendant Girl was great enough, they could be accepted as a disciple as an exception once they matured. However, these situations were very rare. After entering the inner sect in her previous life, Yiqingtang heard of such a prodigy where the Sword Boy was promoted to an inner sect disciple, and the name of that boy was Fei Ying. Yiqingtang only heard some rumors regarding Fei Ying in her previous life, and knew that his endowment was even greater than some of the inner sect disciples. It was just that he was from a humble family. Despite that, his endowment freed him from the limitation of his family background, and he was highly regarded by the elders. However, a while after Fei Ying became an inner sect disciple, he committed murder in the inner sect. After killing 3 inner sect disciples, he fled out of Xinling's sect. Xinling's sect once ordered an arrest warrant on Fei Ying. A number of disciples had gone to catch him, but all of them died in Fei Ying's hands. As the number of people Fei Ying murdered increased constantly, his name was even listed in the assassination roll. It could be said that a few years later in the previous life, Fei Ying became malefic and betrayed and fled the sect. Yiqingtang never expected that she would actually meet Fei Ying, who just became a sword boy when she entered the inner sect a few years earlier. And this malefic who killed inner sect disciples in the future was actually her sword boy. Is there anything wrong? Fei Ying looked at Yiqingtang anxiously. He had entered Xinling's sect for about 2 years where he had been receiving lessons. Yiqingtang was the first inner sect disciple he served, and he was very worried that she would be dissatisfied with his actions and words. After all, sword boys like them did not have any place before the inner sect disciples. If they caused the inner sect disciples to be unhappy, their future days would be extremely tough. Nothing. Yiqingtang sensed the nervousness on Fei Ying's face and immediately shook her head with a smile. No matter what the rumors about Fei Ying were in the previous life, the young boy before her did not bring any sense of danger and was instead innocent and pure. Exactly because there was a possibility of sword boys and attendant girls becoming inner sect disciples, many disciples deliberately guarded against them and even treated them extremely harshly. Although Fei Ying heard Yiqingtang, he was still unable to fully relax. Once Yiqingtang reached the door of her room, a pretty young girl with hair tied in 2 buns stood outside the door in a perfectly straight position. Once she saw Yiqingtang, she immediately knelt and bowed. "And I Shang greets Mississippi."